Hi, I am Katie Johnson. Thank you for joining me. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Stoughton, Wisconsin, and I come on every Monday with a project. Today's project is going to feature this really cute Happy Hedgehogs stamp set. This is one that's great for people that like to color. It also has a coordinating punch, and look at this. So this punch shape right here, the bottom one, is going to cut out this stamped image. Okay, so I'm holding it in reverse, so you see that the little guy is looking off to the right, and the punch is going to punch him looking off to the right. There's this other wonky shape up there on top, and when you first get it, you're going like, well, I don't know what that is. It doesn't match the other guy. But you know what? That's for cutting out, for stamping him twice and cutting out his quills and layering him up. Super, super cute. All right, let me show you some of the other product I'm going to use on today's card. So here's all the parts that I have cut for the card. The card base is going to be a regular 8.5 by 5.5, which we're going to score. The card I'm going to make is going to be a vertical card, and so it's going to be 5 1/2 tall, and it's going to be 4 1/4 in the sideways direction. And then because this is a dark card and you want to put something on the inside, I cut myself a white piece to go on the inside, and that white insert is going to be 1/4 inch smaller in all the dimensions. So instead of 5 1/2, it's going to be 5 1/4, and instead of 4 1/4, it's going to be 4. So this is the dimensions on this white piece that's going to go on the inside. For interest on the front, this designer paper is going to be my background stamp, or my background. So the designer paper, which in demonstrator lingo we'd say DSP, designer specialty paper. So that also is going to be cut at 4 1/4, or excuse me, 5 1/4 by 4. Remember that this came from a 12 by 12 sheet, and I cut myself a strip that was 4 inches wide, which is going to give me, from a single sheet of designer paper, I would end up being able to make 6 of the cards that I'm going to show you. So I cut a 4-inch strip, and then I cut it in half, which means now I have 6 inches. Well, I only need 4 1/4, so let me go trim the bottom off. All right, so I trim the bottom off. This is going to go on the front, and then I have this little extra strip left over. So let's just deal with those right now to kind of keep the mess clear. So this piece is going to go right on the front. Ooh, I have to decide which way. I think I'm going to put it this way because I want to catch some of that purple visually. We're going to put something else on the front, and where I'm going to place that additional piece, it's going to cover up things in this location. So I wanted to have those purples showing. All right, so that's going to be the front of my card. I just used up that designer paper. Let's go back and deal with the inside of the card. I'm going to put that on in just a minute, but this is too pretty to throw away. Let's just throw this on the inside of the card. I'm gluing this on before I put it in the inside of my card, because that way I can visually check and make sure that the designer paper is exactly the same length as the white piece, and it looks like there's just a teeny little bit of white showing here, so I'm just going to trim that off. I think if I hadn't trimmed it, that it would show up and be obvious against the dark background of the card itself. All right, before I put this in, I'm just going to set this off to the side, because before I mount this piece on the inside, we've got something else that's going to need to tuck underneath there. So let me just set this off to the side for a moment, and we'll deal with the other part that's going to go on the front. Here's my piece that's going to go on the front, and what's going to happen is the white is going to get decorated with the cute hedgehog stuff, and it's going to go on the front of here. And then this piece is going to fold on the front of here. So I can go ahead and assemble all of the parts while I finish up the rest of this. This piece with the white, which we can glue on it in just a minute after we finish it, is going to need to be attached to the back inside. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to put my adhesive on this part that I folded, because, oh, I didn't show you my dimensions. Let me go back here. Sorry about that. So this piece down here was cut at, let's see, we'll just draw a line in case you're catching screenshots later. The layer is going to be 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. And then I score it at 3/4 3/4 of an inch. So I've got a 3/4 of an inch strip over here that I scored and then folded. I need to attach this to my main card. And basically it's going to attach back here, and then these two parts are going to fold over each other. Okay, but I want to get it lined up right. So the trick to that is to hold it on the front. Visually make sure that you have it equidistant or wherever you want it to be. And of course, if you're doing a card like this, you can make this front piece any size you want. This is just the size I chose. I'm going to fold that under. So now I know that that front piece fits nicely and it's snug up against the front part of the card, so it will fit in an envelope. And I've already got my card base scored. I'm going to just close it up and push it down. And now that piece is stuck to the inside. At this point, the card is ready to have my insert. So I'm going to put adhesive on it. And then I'm going to lay that right on top, centered, just like it was a normal card with an insert. It's just that the right-hand edge of that insert is covering up the back side of this flap. So now the inside of my card is done. The very front of my card is done. The flap is in position. I just need to decorate the front. So here's where my cute little hedgehogs come in, and that white piece is going to be a 1/4 inch smaller. So instead of actually we folded 3/4 of an inch under. So the white piece on the little front part is going to be 2 3/4. Trust me, the math is right, and it will be 4 inches tall. All right, so I have this little piece. Let's just see what we can do with the hedgehog parts. This cute little set has 2 hedgehogs, a larger one and a slightly smaller one, and they're facing each other. There's a little toadstool, there's a butterfly and a bird, and then there's some sentiments and a little bit of grass down here. So lots of ways that I can play with this thing. I do want to try to match some of the colors, and I'm pulling out to use as an ink color. I'm pulling out Gorgeous Grape. It's a darker purple, and it will pull out some of the purples that you see in here. The other colors I'm going to use are some browns to deal with the hedgehogs. And I'm going to use, see, I think I pulled out Mossy Meadow for the greenery for the tree. First thing up is I'm going to put a sentiment on here. Now I'm a little bit concerned about placing all the parts are, because clearly you can see that that tree by itself would take up the whole space, not a whole lot of room for, so I want to get everything all kind of fit in here. So I'm building up from the little things, because the tree can go back and just fill in whatever space is available. All right, I've pulled in the dark brown ink for this part of the project. I'm going to stamp the little hedgehog, the one that's looking off to the left. And there's a reason for the placement on this. Okay, so there is my little hedgehog. The little hedgehog looks like he's looking at something. So I'm bringing in the butterfly stamp, and we'll just put the butterfly right there. Here's my Mossy Meadow ink. Now this is a big stamp. I can bring the stamp down to the ink pad. Another way to make sure that it's evenly covered is just to bring the ink pad down to the stamp. Either way, you just want to make sure you have good coverage on here. So it kind of curves nicely around that butterfly, and I've got full images of the flowers on there. Now comes the fun part. So I would like to have this be more than just a line image. I would like it to look colored. I'm bringing in a really light green. This is Soft Seafoam. All right, I still have one more blend out here. I want to show you something about using the blends on colored cardstock. And I haven't used my big hedgehog yet, because remember how they're looking at each other? And I have a plan for this card. Wait till you see the finished project. All right, let me stamp the hedgehog right here. And I'm going to stamp him twice. And then we're going to go ahead and punch him out. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is punch out the whole hedgehog down here on the bottom. And then I'm going to slide this down and I'm going to punch just the top part. And see this little projection right here? That's his ear. So easy to line him up in the punch. Okay, so now let's talk about this. First thing I'm going to show you is on the hedgehog himself right here. When you color over the lines that are there, the lines being in basically the color that you're using. So I'm using crumb cake, which is a really light brown, going on to the early espresso, which is a darker brown. Look at the great look that you get here. You don't lose any of the detail of the hedgehog's quills, but it just really brings them out and helps to set off the quill area as being darker than the rest of the card. And then hold that thought for just a moment. Okay, I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on the little guy. All right, so when you look at those two, this one looks pretty natural, two-tone, because I darkened in the top part and it looks brown on brown. This is brown on white, and there's a very stark difference. So I'm going to actually color the body of this guy with the same marker, not even do it in a different color, with the same marker, and then wait till you see the effect. I left his face white. I don't know, for some reason it seemed like the right thing to do, leave his face be a white color. But look at that tone on tone you look by using the single same marker on here, but you've got all these dark brown lines. Okay, so the question is, what would it look like if I did the same thing on here? In other words, if I came in and I colored him. Well, that's pretty cool too, right? And now this is a very white face, but that one is a light colored face. And let's go in and do this and see what it looks like if I layer it up. I haven't glued it on yet, but I will in just a moment. But you can see what a difference that makes. You get the realistic look of depth here. You get more visual depth because of the way the light plays on the edge of that extra little punched out piece. I'm trying to not only line up the curves there, but I'm also trying to get his ear all lined up. All right, wait till you see what we do with this little guy. We're just going to put him off to the side and assemble this. The card is actually almost done at this point. Let's go ahead and put this on the front. It's going to go right on here. So there's the inside of my card. There's the front flap with the Just Designer paper, and there's the other piece. I could have made this card without having it attached in and be separate. I could have just, put this piece and glued it onto the front on that point. Oops, we're going to do two more things. So the first thing is, you know me and bling, I need to have some pearls on here or rhinestones. I don't know, the pearls seem like a better choice to use for this project. What have I got? I'll use some of these little ones right here. Okay, so here it is with the pearls. I'm going to show you another finished card over there in just a moment that just has the plain old flowers, and you can tell me which one you like better. So what are we going to do with this little thing? Well, let me move that out of the way. You see what just happened to the card when I took my hands off of it? This side popped up because I've got a fold in there. The fold in the regular cardstock, it will stay shut pretty much by itself when it's just the paper. But once it has to wrap around the thickness of another piece of paper, because remember, this little card on the right has to not just close on itself, but it's got to also cover the thickness of the front, plus the other piece on the inside. So it wants to pop open. I'm going to turn this other little hedgehog into a flap. Now, as you're looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, that's an awesome design, I want to go ahead and try that myself, but I don't have the hedgehogs. That's okay. Think about whatever stamp sets you have, whatever die cut pieces you have, and then you could use like a leaf. You could use a flower. It doesn't have to be something that's punched or die cut. You could take designer paper and just cut one of the big flowers out of the designer paper. Now this is going to be really flimsy when you see what I do, so you might want to, if you're going to use a designer paper image that you fussy cut, you might want to glue that onto some white cardstock or even some of the thick cardstock. And okay, so I pulled out some of dimensionals right here, and I'm put some dimensionals on here. He's going to end up forming a latch to help keep that closed. Now, here's where he's going to go, and you'll see what I do with the dimensionals in just a moment. I'm going to put him right here because these two little guys are looking at each other. Maybe I'll put him up here so some of that grass shows through. Ooh, maybe just like that. There's enough room. He's not going to fall off the edge of the card. But I can only glue him on the back half, not on his nose, because his nose has to hold the front shut. So let me just pile on a few dimensionals over in this part of his body. And then we'll pop him on the card, and you'll see what a great job he does holding the front of the card closed. So look at that. Now that front isn't going to pop open anymore. Here's the one I just did with the little pearls in there. Here's another one I had done earlier that is just the flower centers. And you could go back and use a yellow marker maybe and color those things in. Here's another sample with the same color for the flowers and a slightly different background. So, you know, pick out some designer paper that's got a nice big flowery image of some sort, and you could turn it into this awesomely cute little fancy fold. I will take a photograph of the dimensions, and I will post those in the comments below so that if you've watched this through one time, it's not like you have to sit there and scroll back through and try and find the piece of paper that's got all the dimensions on it. Remember, the base is a normal card base. And then you're going to score it at that at the 4 1/4 inch mark, so you get your normal size card. It's a vertical card. The designer paper and the white piece for the inside are both a 1/4 inch smaller than this set of dimensions, so they're going to be 4 1/4 by 4 for both of them. If you cut your designer paper right, or give yourself a little extra, then you'll have a strip of extra designer paper that you can use to decorate the inside of the card if you want to. The layer for the framing piece is 4 1/4 tall by 3 1/2 wide, but then you're going to score 3/4 of that that's going to go underneath. And then that white piece on the front is going to be, instead of the 4 1/4 tall, it's going to be 4 inches tall, but width, it's only going to be 2 3/4 inch wide. This is super fun. This is a super fun design. I would love to see some cards that you guys have made using this. Go ahead and post them right in the comments here. I would love to see them. And if you're looking for this Happy Hedgehog set, right now I'm filming this in March of 23. It is still current product available, and the retirement list is coming out the end of this month. So if you're thinking that you might like this, once that retirement list hits, if it retires, they won't order anymore. It'll sell out and then it'll be gone. Hey, thanks for watching, and tune in next week. We'll see you later. Bye.